Daily Devotion with Pastor Balla for November 20th, 2021 from Psalm chapter 104, A Hymn to the Creator, Part 1. Verse 1, Bless the Lord, O my soul. O Lord my God, you are very great. You are clothed with splendor and majesty, covering yourself with light as with a garment, stretching out the heavens like a tent. So the psalmist begins by stating that yes, God did create everything, and then uses the poetic expressions like stretching out the heavens like a tent. Verse 3, He lays the beams of his chambers on the waters. He makes the clouds his chariot. He rides on the wings of the wind. He makes his messengers winds, his ministers a flaming fire. Again, the psalmist is being very poetic and talks about God, riding on a chariot and on the winds. Verse 5, He set the earth on its foundation so that it should never be moved. You cover it with the deep as with a garment. The waters stood above the mountains. That God sets the earth and its foundations. That gives us an idea of that God is taking care of the earth and that it is solidly built. You may remember that question that God asked Job when Job was being a little rebellious. In Job chapter 38, verse 4, Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. No one could answer God's question, not even Job, because none of us were there. Only God laid the foundations of the earth. Verse 7, At your rebuke they fled. At the sound of your thunder they took to flight. The mountains rose. The valleys sank down to the place that you appointed for them. You set a boundary that they may not pass, so that they might not again cover the earth. Here we hear that the mountains and the seas are answerable to God, and God put them in the positions that God wanted them. And that was a boundary that God set. Verse 10, You make springs gush forth in the valleys. They flow between the hills. They give drink to every beast of the field. The wild donkeys quench their thirst. God's beautiful creation takes care of itself, even as God provides water to all his creatures. Verse 12, Besides them, the birds of the heaven dwell. They sing among the branches. From your lofty abode, you water the mountains. The earth is satisfied with the fruit of your work. Verse 14, You cause the grass to grow for the livestock and plants for man to cultivate, that he may bring forth food from the earth, and wine to gladden the heart of man, oil to make his face shine, and bread to strengthen man's heart. Notice that God gives us these many gifts to enjoy, like the wine and the bread. Verse 16, The trees of the Lord are watered abundantly. The cedars of Lebanon that he planted, in them the birds build their nests. The stork has her home in the fir trees. The high mountains are for the wild goats. The rocks are a refuge for the rock badgers. So the psalmist is coming to a quick conclusion halfway through the psalm, that God created this world and is still taking care of this world. That means God is also taking care of us. So we put our faith and trust in God, who is giving us, as we pray in the Lord's Prayer, our daily bread. even when we don't always recognize it. So the psalmist gives us this hymn of praise that thanks God for being that creator and still taking care of us. God's peace and many blessings be with you. And thank you for listening. And please take an opportunity to share this message with others. If you have enjoyed these daily devotions, please consider making a donation to Peace Lutheran Church, 24024 West Main Street, Plainfield, Illinois, 60544. Thank you again for listening.